thank you for coming, everyone. I'm Marcy, and I believe I know almost every one of you, so it's exciting to see familiar faces. But for those of you that don't know me, it's nice to meet you, and I'll meet you guys later, personally, hopefully. So, obviously, tonight we're coming to talk a little bit about going green with organic gardening. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, just because it's springtime right now, and who's not looking forward to being outside, and also I believe that we are created in order to honor and to really take care of the world around us because it was given as a gift from God for us. So just a little bit about myself, just so you know. I'm going to start from the bottom just because I feel like that's one of my favorite things to talk about. It's personal experience, and that's where passion and drive comes from in life, not just from your education. But I love sustainable living, and I love organic gardening. Those are one of my two favorite things. And then throwing in some herbology in there too is just a wonderful medicine that I believe that we're given to help heal our bodies as well. Before this, I was a personal trainer at Lifetime for a while, and then I just got done with the detoxification specialist certification, and that was just a wonderful way of using God-given foods and herbs in order to help heal our bodies as well. And then right now, I'm the nutritionist here at Vallejo, and I'm currently in school at St. Catherine's Holistic and Natural Medicine. Get my master's, and then I'm just recently a grad at Bethany Lutheran, and that was in an exercise science background. So. But now, for the real reason why we're here, a little bit about organic or going green, just in general. So that's going to be pursuing the knowledge and learning about different ways to be environmental friendly, to look at ecology and safety, looking at things from a responsible decision, because we have the choice to make a decision. There's many different choices, but to step back and think, why am I making that choice, and what would be best for not only for myself, but for the environment around me, and how that's going to help to make me healthier and better in my family too. And then sustainability and lifestyle. So, not only looking at why am I doing it for today, but what is it going to help in that future time? What are we doing right now that's going to impact not only the city, but the countries, the animals that are around us, and our inner bodies as well. So little things that we'll talk about today is that we'll specifically focus on looking at how to help sustain the environment and what's going on right now. The health benefits of it, how it can be cost effective, not only you, but for your family and other people around. And then looking at different techniques that you can use for organic gardening. Anywhere, if it's in the city, if it's in the country, making it simple so that anybody can do it. Okay, so I have a little quiz. I like to help engage people because it's the best way for you to get involved and to feel, that you're having a partake in this. So I have a couple questions here, and I'll just ask you guys to write down on a piece of paper or remember in your mind what you think the answer is. So the first one says, chemically produced fertilizers were introduced in what year? Or what decade, kind of? You could do 2010 would be an example, or the 2000s or something. So if you want to write down an answer, just remember it.
They're already on our sheet.
No, seriously! They are! Okay, don't look at him. Don't look at him. Cover your eyes. Cover your eyes.
We've already read them.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
I did
funny,
too.
because I had to put the slides in on them.
I
and
just
was
want to
like,
say,
oh.
really?
I know, I did too. That was a
first
shocker.
one?
Yeah.
Isn't
I
that
can't believe it.
Yeah.
So why was that a shocker?
So long
So
ago.
long ago.
Right?
Oh my
I know.
God.
And so we've been doing this for how long? So
And here we were
everything.
talking just before I came. I was talking to a friend of mine. Back in 1950s, we didn't know how good we had it. Whoops.
I know. Almost 100 years right there. Yeah. Interesting, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, shocker, in many ways, 1840s. And then how many billion pounds of pesticides are sprayed on just the U.S. alone?
Yeah.
Is it per year? And if we've been doing this, obviously the 1840s weren't doing that much. But how it's progressing, and it's progressing.
I think it
Guess would
really.
be pesticides would have been quite a bit later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think so.
That's a good point. Thank you.
When they became corporate farms, I think is when it probably really
Really took
started
off.
happening.
And from being a farm girl, I mean, there's probably a couple that have grown up on farms too to know, but it's just drastic different. It's crazy. Only 80 out of the 100 have been tested safe. So if you think about all the ones that are not tested and what they can be doing and how they're slowly linking possible, ADHD to, disabilities to what am I thinking of? Deformities, cancers. A lot of things that are linked that we don't even know.
How high is the hundreds? I'm sorry.
What was that?
When it says of hundreds, is like 500s, 800s.
Yeah. And I didn't get the specific of what it was because there's so many that are being developed right now.
Do you have any idea in the ballpark how many?
One time my dad told me around 600 rounds.
Wow.
From being a farmer, but that's not in every, every case scenario. He knows for his own farmland and what he uses, but a totally different crop could have something that he's never heard of.
Mm-hmm.
So what does tested safe really mean? Is that by
Oh,
an
that's a good
independent lab or is that by the maker?
Okay, so from what I know, it's from the lab.
All right.
But again, regulations seem to always be changing with things. I don't know. Monica here owns a business where she uses organic materials to clean mattresses and so forth, so she might know more about that when it comes to even that specific thing. So this isn't saying just with farming, this is a lot of chemicals too, so. Yeah. And then this one was shocking to me. Annually, Western Minnesota has blank diagnosed cases of poisoned farm workers.
Yes.
And so I think about my family, and I'm just like, and I grew up on a farm. Oh, gosh. 10,000 to 20,000. And that's a very broad range. And so we don't really know where it sits. But just knowing that it's getting up into the 10,000, just in Western Minnesota alone, because we are really, our population of farmers around here with our really rich soil, it's really easy to do that. So yeah, it's just crazy when you think about it. So. Welcome. Yeah, so just a little, it gets you sort of stirring, thinking like, wow, I can't believe that. Because we hear it, it's all around us, but we do have a say. So it's just a cool thing. So what does organic really mean? So it means pesticide-free, or the I's, no chemicals, and then non-genetically modified organisms. And that's a big one that's been on the market a lot lately. You walk into Whole Foods and on the side, there's a sign that says, GMO labeling, in the year of 2016 or something, that they have to label all foods that are GMO. And that's, one grocery store or food market.
They don't have to, they have chosen to.
Okay.
By the end of 2015, I believe.
Is it 15? Mm-hmm. Perfect. My sister works there, so she's telling me all these little things. But, you think about it, why are we finally putting them out there? Why do people want to know? There's sort of links that's saying that it's not what our body can actually handle to digest, it's a foreign object. Because what they're doing is they're basically taking different genes from one type of plant, putting them into, let's say, a corn, and so then your piece of corn is going to be resistant to certain bugs and certain, viruses that would kill it up. But I have a statistic here that we're supposed to have less chemicals being used because of that. But annually, it's shown that herbicide, which is a type of chemical that keeps away bugs, is at 52 million pounds within the past 15 years. So even though they're saying that they're using GMOs so we don't have to spray as much and we can keep things cleaner, they're still having to because those bugs are smart and those, the viruses, they can adapt. So they know what to do. And the worms?
And the weeds.
The weeds, thank you. That's a big thing too. So, what they're trying to do might be sustainable for that year, the next year, but what about the years after that? And then we're not giving the soil, we're depleting the soil because we're not rotating our crops to give it that biodiversity. So, and so the other thing is that the funding isn't going through for research, they say, because the research is being sponsored by the the bigger corporations that are producing the GMOs.
Yeah.
So there's just not a lot of say out there.
And if you read the newspaper, just a few weeks ago, there was a big article about the amount of money that General Mills, Monsanto, and those very large corporate farms were used to fight the GMO labeling law. It was huge amounts of money. It was just huge amounts of money.
And again, you know, why are they fighting it? If they're proud of something that they're producing, which we all should be proud of something that we believe in and that we're living, right? You know, so I'm not saying, you know, one way or the other. Everybody has their own opinion. But you should be proud and you should allow something to go through if you believe that it's okay and healthy for you.
Well, and you shouldn't be afraid to let people know it's in there.
Yeah, I know. Everybody has a right to know. So, one thing about organic gardening is that I like to talk to people about, first off, is the importance of biodiversity. You know, we just talked about GMO farming and having, you know, it's killing off the weeds when the weeds are coming back. Why are they coming back? Because they nourish the ground. They give something to the ground that it needs in order to balance out so the crops can grow. The bugs that want to be around and that should be around can live there. You know, we're sort of playing God and taking that part away, you know, in that manner. So organic means just in that way to allow that biodiversity to be, and we'll talk more about what those are. But it's scientific fact that having biodiversity, come on, no, it's okay, thanks. It's a scientific fact that when you have biodiversity in a garden, or I mean just in the world around you, you're gonna have bigger vegetation. You're gonna have healthier root systems. They're gonna, you know, the stuff around and specifically the plants are gonna be able to live longer. That means more produce for yourself. And this environmental security, you know, you're looking at future of what it takes. Because we look at health and well-being, and a lot of people now look at it as like a web. You know, you have your mind, your body, your spirit, you have your emotions, your intellectual, and they all play a part in that center hub of who you are and what and how you feel in health. Same thing with biodiversity. You're going to have your organisms, you're going to have your flowers, you're going to have your weeds, you're going to have, you know, just whatever comes around the environment, the water, and so you need all those things to be together. So when it comes to doing an organic gardening, I like to tell people, you might have to let go of your OCD. You know, you see just these perfect lawns and these perfect gardens, and weeds are beneficial. We'll talk about why. You know, little things like that. So it doesn't have to be hard to do it. You can almost just let it go, and it's going to take over for itself. I like to talk about I like to call them herbs because I believe that every plant out there is an herb and there's a benefit for you. That God created it for a reason. But here are some of the main ones that people see that I like to keep in my garden because I like to make a lot of my own herbs, not just for eating but for medicine. And some of these are really edible. So this right here, everybody's seen dandelion. So those are types of leaves that you can eat. Very good for the liver, really good for detoxification. You know, as long as they're not sprayed and stuff like that. This one's called plantain, and it's really good as a herbal salve for a healer. So there's little things that you can do, and you can eat almost any of them. And what they do too is that they provide different nutrients for the soil. Certain animals and bugs like to eat them, so they're not going to eat your plants that you actually want produce from. So it's going to keep them away from that. And so it also draws up soil, or up water, and then it also draws down air. So it helps to keep that flow for your other plants as well. So there's a whole bunch of other ones. These are the common ones, like your dandelion you're going to find. Your purslane is actually the highest in omega-3 for any type of plant. So like one out of the three that actually, flaxseed is the other one, I can't think of, I think it's walnuts is the other one. Lamb's quarters, red cloves, burdock, plantain. So there's a couple different ones. Those are your more common ones. So you can find that in any type of herbal book if you go to Barnes & Noble. So, biodiversity, looking at, you know, your little organisms and your little bugs, just knowing that they need to be around. So spraying kills those off, and they bring beneficial nutrients and everything, and they take away other bugs that would end up harming that type of plant too. They just know what they're doing. They have some kind of connection of how they speak and lingo to one another. What we're going to look at a little bit too is thinking about how having your own garden is helping with the fossil fuel emissions around. Now we talk about how global warming, if somebody believes that or not, but just the fact that there is something going on. Whatever we're doing is not being beneficial, and how much we're allowing the gases to go into the air. But if you think, so let's start at the farm. This isn't even showing that. But, so if we look at the farm, first off, they spray a couple times a year, from the beginning to the middle stage and around the end stage. And so during that time, that's happening, and then all the fossil fuel from the tractors and everything that's going up. So that starts, and so that's going to go into transportation to the store. So think about it, a lot of our produce is coming from California right now, coming from Arizona, coming from Florida. So that's being shipped up, and we're just Minnesota to get where it's going. And then bringing it to the market, and then from, us picking up the market to going home. So it's estimated that 33% of the fossil fuel emissions is from food transportation alone. So it's quite a high number. When you think about it, you can grow your own in your own backyard, and you can just go pick it, and you have this connection because you grew it. There's just so much more there. Sorry, I'm not keeping up with my notes because I usually just talk. So one thing I actually wanted to express here is that when you have an organic garden and you let it be, you have 50% more wildlife around. More deer, just more hedgehogs, more squirrels, just fun little things, more birds that you like to see out your window. You have 75% more just random plants and flowers. Your wild, beautiful ones that you don't expect to come. That are just, they shock you, and it's like the best thing of the day. Mm-hmm. And then you also have 50% more bees and butterflies. And knowing that the bees are becoming less and less too, that they're showing, wondering what it's playing into. So you can have more of those around, and that helps us pollinate flower to flower. And I don't consider any plant a weed too. There's always a reason for them. I'm looking at waste. Think about all the packaging that comes from the food that we buy, even if it is vegetation, even if it is local, even if it is organic. So it's estimated that 5% of that emission that's coming from the transportation is also playing a factor to how much it takes to create all the plastic as well. And then there's 5% of methylene that comes from that. That's also a byproduct that's toxic into the environment. So, if you look around, we have waste around that it's thrown out off the road, but there's always, if you get caught, there's a price to pay. It's not only a price to pay for our budget and what we have to pay the government, but it's a price of what we're paying for our land to do that. There's always a pay. So it's important to have your own garden, so you can just go back and you don't have to have the packaging. You can save that way. You can help the earth going green. Composting is a great way to help with organic matter. So organic matter is when you are using anything that was live and living that can help to be put back into your garden to give it that extra nutrients, extra boost of what it needs specifically. So that could be anything from your leaves and grass that you cut. It can be from organic coffee grounds. It can be from the food that you're eating that's not like a meat product or animal product, but you're composting from other vegetables, other fruits, and so forth. So if you allow that to, let's say, put in a little bin, you can have that outside of your house, and to stir it up a couple times a week as you throw things in, and that will really help to ferment it and bring more bacteria that's good for the ground. So there's fun little beneficial ways that you can do that. You can also just get a big cage. I have that on my farm. We just throw it out there, and then we'll put it in the garden just in the springtime. So springtime is a good time to compost, and in the fall time, so it's ready for that next season. And it doesn't have to be much work. It can just be a little container, whatever you want to do. Now we're getting a little bit about the nutritional benefits of why to have your own garden. So cooking food destroys a lot of the nutrients in the food. Anytime above 104 degrees, it really starts to nature that. So when you do cook, you want to cook with coconut oil, more high sustainable saturated fat, just so that it can keep the nutrients in and it can't escape. Because usually when you're cooking, you smell this sweet aroma, or you smell something that smells great. A lot of times it's just the vitamins and minerals that are escaping it. So So when you think about it, what's really left? You know, food for thought that way.
Could you talk a bit about a microwave? I tried to explain to someone the other day why they shouldn't use a microwave, and I didn't do a very good job of it.
Yeah.
Is there an easier way to explain that to someone? I know it just destroys all the nutrients,
Yeah.
but I don't know how else to say that.
What I would maybe look at first is saying, an example is when you're taking water and it evaporates. You're changing the anatomy, the structure of it.
Okay.
And it's the same thing in a microwave. When you have the radiation from the microwave, it makes the molecules sort of go crazy. And so it's recognizing it's just not the same food. It moves them around. So you're not losing things, but it's changing them. So when it goes into the body doesn't fully recognize it either. That's what I've read.
Oh, well, that's a good
So
explanation.
just showing, you know,
Thank you.
from water to vapor, from a solid to a liquid. So keeping them fresh is really beneficial. A lot of different nutrients that you have. So antioxidants, they help to fight free radicals, and that's something that slows down the aging process. And everybody wants to be more youthful, more vitality, just more energy. A lot of the macronutrients, the micronutrients, I didn't put macro on here because your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats. But the micronutrients are your vitamins, your minerals that your body needs just for daily function. In every way, shape, or form. This is how it, starts from them and then it stems out to the rest of your body. Your bioflavonoids, which are your really concentrated and high-power antioxidants that fight those free radicals. And then photochemicals help to deal with different types of cancers or diseases and just keeps your body healthy. So there's so many more benefits to the nutrition side, but those are just some basics to look into. So they're very nutritionally dense. You're avoiding chemicals, which we've talked about before, because you know where your food is coming from, you know what you put on it. You don't have to worry about that aspect if that's something that you're trying to really start incorporating into your life. And it also just builds strong immunity, because you're taking in the area around you, the environment, and your body is able to use that so when other bugs come across, you're able to fight them. It's sort of just like building that stronger as a defense.
Did you also hear that farm, kids raised on farms have like the lowest energy?
Yeah, because you're constantly, I think when I grew up, I was out like picking rocks in the field. I was always gardening. I was always out in the cows. We were always just getting dirty. And nowadays, we don't do that as much living in town. We just don't have the availability to. And so you're not getting dirty. You're not exposing yourself to that. It's sort of the same thought of what like a vaccination would be. You're exposing yourself so you can build. That's the thought process behind that. So, but there's natural immunity, which is why maybe vaccinations are becoming more of a rise. Is because we don't have that from our basics of when we were, from a toddler up. This is something I just learned this past week. I was at detoxification certification. We looked into the energy, the angstroms of what food is and what vibration it gives to you. There's certain, you can be around certain people that give you energy, and there's certain people that can take energy away from you. Certain activities, same thing. So our raw fruits have anywhere from 10,000 to 12,000. They're very high vibrancies. They really help to give your body energy naturally. It's like a natural rush. Your raw vegetables are a little bit lower, so around the 8 to 9. And looking more into cooked vegetables, and that really cuts it down quite a bit. So we're not talking about nutrients, we're talking about the vibration and energy from it too. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have cooked vegetables either, but to try to consume more vegetables raw, more fruit raw, because there's a lot higher healing property for them. Then looking at like your raw milk, so I don't know what pasteurized milk would be, that's at 2,000, and then cheese is around 1,800, white flour around 15, and then cooked meat really doesn't have any. So it doesn't have that high vibrancy. So if you can eat a lot more fruits and vegetables along with your other types, it helps to balance, so it gives your body that natural need of what it needs throughout the day. So I thought that was just really neat. And this is a good picture, it reminds me, because there's something called like photonutrients that come in from the sun into the plant. And that plant is living, there's vitality to it. So when you eat it, it gives energy that way. So it's like energy from the sun. We all feel better when we're in the sun. So, other benefits is that you can get outside and you can exercise, just like this guy right here, if you can see him, and I'll put on a little workout, and we can just have fun. That's not maybe, really what happens when you're gardening. But just your physical activity increases naturally. You don't even realize you're really doing it. You're out there hoeing, you're getting the weeds if that's what you choose to do, and there's some that maybe will get too big that you decide you just want to take down anyways, and that's okay. But watering, taking that hose out, taking the bucket, there's work within that, and it's more than what I think people realize. And then just harvesting, there's this constant time that you're going to be out there, you're going to be picking up watermelon that are going to be 10 pounds for you guys because you're going to have an organic garden. There's a lot of different ways for physical activity, especially in the summer. It's just so warm out, you're just going to be constantly sweating. And that's a good thing that your body needs to do, especially when a lot of us sit inside all day because that's what we do. So, you're going to increase your range of motion. Just think about if you're sitting down and you're picking something up, or you're hoeing and you're bending and you're pulling. So you're just going to give your body that natural stretch, something that we don't do often either. Hand-eye coordination. There's a research I was reading, and I didn't pull this up, but kids do really, really well with hand-eye coordination when they're gardening. And then they also build that connection to something that they want to give, and it's growing. They see this life and this stability of how they can give and show love to something, and yet find it in return, and they're more likely to eat it too, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So, motor skills as well. And it's a good night's sleep. It's like a therapy as well. And you're tired, you know that when you exercise, your body needs to sleep. This is one of my favorites. I love to garden because it gives me a sense of well-being. I feel the closest to God when I'm out in His nature and His presence. And there's, from everything here, it shows creativity to peace. You appreciate, because you're putting work into something, and you're going to get something back. You know what it takes to be a farmer, and especially an organic farmer. You have that, just how much more work it is. Self-worth, hope, respect, well-being, achievement, joy. There's a lot that you get. It's very therapeutic for anybody. And then the social benefits of it and the life skills. So, how many of you actually partake and have a garden right now? Okay, got some. Do you guys do it with friends and family, or is it usually just alone? Anybody? Together?
So she has a garden, but I have some herb plants,
So you get to go over to her house.
Well, we live together. Yeah.
Okay, so you get to spend time together doing it, if you want it to. Just that social benefit, it can be that get-together time to do that. It's like you get excited to do it, and it becomes social conversation. A lot changed for me last summer when I started growing my own garden. Specifically, you'd be like, come on over and let's go in my garden. Let's not go out to eat. We can make something right after that that's fresh right from the garden. And you can enjoy it and just savor it together to know how much work it took to bring that together to the table. So there's just that strong connection that you make. It's like a natural bond, not only with the food but with the people around you. So you feel more connected. We'll talk more about community gardens, but just to get a group together. Not everybody may have land, but one person might, and they're more than willing to share it usually because you get too many peppers, you don't know what to do with them after a while, or too many tomatoes, like last year was a bumper crop for tomatoes, so. Any suggestion?
I just wanted to say as an example, I started a Dale garden last year because I don't live in a place where there's I have a townhouse. And there's about 3 or 4 other people that I associate with now that are doing it this year. Because I shared with them as we were going through the year how things went, and so.
Spreading the wealth. Right. It is. Right. It's a domino effect. You get excited, somebody else gets excited. And everybody sort of wants to start doing this again. There's just like that grassroots that's going around right now. Just that, I don't know, it's the era of the generation of that. But people are wanting to get back to the basics. So it's a good way just to share it. Family activity. I grew up on a farm, had a garden, and it was always like, hey, what are we doing tonight? We're going to go to the garden. And we put on our music, we would all just have fun together, end up throwing tomatoes at each other. It was just a bond time. It was just a great family activity. And because when you give a portion, you get something back. So it almost goes with that personal ownership, especially with kids. Kids that actually get to start a seed, to watch it grow, to see this life happening, and then to go plant it in the garden and to see that transition. And then they're always checking on it. And when I was a nanny one time, we did that with some two boys that I was nanny for, and We went up to the garden every day. They would check. They're like, "Oh, it's growing." You know, just how when they get to go up to a door and they see that they're growing, there's just that life and stability that they're giving back to something, and yet they get fun in return for it. You know, a lot of our kids are inside a lot more nowadays too. You know, there's just a lot of different entertainment. So to do something simple like that is actually really exciting to them, as easy as it is. And you're getting them outdoors. You know, I think everybody would like to be more outdoors, but especially getting their kids outdoors and to engage with other kids that way. And improve solving or problem solving skills too. So if you think of asking your child, like, what would you do next? You know, we just planted it. What can be the next step? Should we water it? Is today a really dry day? Did it rain? Is it a really rainy day? What does the plant really need? And so they start pertaining that to other things that I like too. And then it develops creativity. You know, we're so busy nowadays. It's just fun just to go out to the garden and have that time. You know, a lot of people, it's their therapeutic way, which is creativity too. So looking a little bit about food safety. So we walk into the grocery store and we think, okay, I have all these choices for produce, but what does organic really mean in the store? And you know, if it's commercially grown, it can have anything from hormones in it to pesticides to fertilize being used on the ground to artificial flavoring that's added into it. I don't know, I didn't find an exact brand that said that, but that's just something that was out there. I was thinking maybe they need more in canned types. Different colorings, and then also the preservatives on them to keep them from the shipment over to the store. So you just never know what you're going to get that way. And then just very unclear standards. So if it's coming from abroad, their standards are different than what they are here in the United States. So you don't really know what you're getting. But it's funny because a lot of produce that we ship abroad is not allowed to because they're GMO'd. So you're wondering back and forth, like, what are we getting, but what are we giving them? And then just you have that personal knowledge of knowing again that what has happened to your food, where it's come from, what love you've given it, and what you haven't put on it, and so forth. So just, it sort of keeps that peace of mind that you don't have to wonder. And it's obviously wonderful for groceries. So it's estimated that it's $2,750 per year an average a family of four saves by growing their own produce in their backyard. So that's quite a bit. I think $2,750. It's going to change. So, you know, and you save money because, well, obviously it's free when you get it, but you have to put, you know, money in the seeds, and then, you know, depending on what you want to do, if you want to do it in natural pest control, and then the natural compost for fertilizer. But if you think about it, all those things can almost be free. The seeds you can save for the next year. The pest control can pretty much be like apple cider vinegar or certain things that you guys could look into. I'm not going to do those 2 now because we go way too long on things that are out there that are really cheap. And then the fertilizer can just be your own food that you didn't eat from before, or just the scraps that you cut off when you didn't use the top or the pepper. You know, it can just be reused, so it's a constant cycle. It saves time, so you don't have to run to the grocery store. You don't really have to think about, you know, what's on sale, what's not, and you know what's coming in that season, because different plants are going to be producing and bearing fruit at different times. And better tasting, so fresh and flavored. So has anybody ever taken like a ripe tomato that's from your garden and then gone to the store and bought a tomato?
Yeah.
So color is very different, usually depending on the season, but the organic ones are usually bigger and surprised too when they're grown right outside of your backyard, especially depending what variety they are. And then just the aroma when you like break it open, it smells different, and the consistency. It's a real organic tomato is really actually sort of watery and juicy. It almost is just gonna flow out. You want to eat it like an apple, you know. And then a non-organic, you cut it and it's just sort of soggy. Usually, depending on where it's from, especially if you get it from like on your salad or something at a restaurant, they're usually just lighter in color. They're pink. They're just not as nutrient dense. It tastes very different too. So that's just, I think, the best example. Like, I literally want to eat a tomato like it's an apple when I'm in the garden. So that says a lot, I think. So, different ways that you could start this. right now, I was gonna give this presentation in April, so you could have done more of your seedling starting. You still could, because we don't know what's gonna happen in Minnesota right now, it's May, we'll probably get 5 inches of snow, next weekend or something. Who really knows, but there's different ways that if you need to, looking at next year, you can start inside. Or you can go to any of the floral stores, or you can go to the farmers markets coming up soon, and they'll have starters ready for you if you want to put them in your garden. So all you really need is, you need the seeds, you need moisture, and they're in a container, you need room temperature, and using natural light. So, just follow the directions on the packet. It's pretty simple. I'm guessing probably you guys have done that at one point in either way, shape, or form. So, sprouting only takes a couple days to a week, depending on the variety. I started mine about a month ago, and now I'm like, we need to get in the garden. I need to do this weekend, because they just take off when they're ready. If you get them the right amount of water, the right amount of love, and the right amount of water. So, and then you just move them to a garden bed. So you just get them a little wet and a little damp, and you just make sure that I like to do it before the sun comes out, so it's not really that hot. And then I'll put them in, and then I'll actually put a little sheet over them, just because it's such transition time for them. It's like if you come home from the hospital, you need some downtime. If you just went out into the world right away, maybe you get sick again. Now, oftentimes if you just put them in such shock right away, and the sun comes and they're just not adapted, they could die easily. So just keep them really watered, and then just maybe put a little tarp over them, or a little sheet if you feel like that is needed for them, if the sun's going to be hot and so forth. You can just keep track of the calendar to say when you planted them and when they should be planted in the garden. And there's a lot of online resources that you can just find that say, right now in Minnesota in zone 3, it's good to be transplanting or taking your little seedlings and putting in, let's say, squash right now or something like that. So there's many resources that you can find online. And then they can bear fruit anywhere from 50 to 90 days. So it's pretty quick, anywhere from a month and a half to 3 months. And then you'll have produce, starting in a month and a half all the way to the end of the fall. Your squash and your tomatoes and your watermelon will go into that way, and your sweet potatoes and stuff like that. So.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I've never grown anything like this other than my kids. But so we did just build a house last year, and so just starting to go out into what am I trying to say, landscaping and stuff like that. I don't get what the zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 really is.
I'm sorry. So it's going to be your temperature of where you vary within the world. So your upper portions into Canada and stuff are going to be your zone 1, and the lower portions are going to be around zone 2 and a little bit into Minnesota, I think.
Minnesota's 4.
Is it? Because I'm zone 3.
Yeah.
Right. And
If you're way in northern Minnesota, it's probably a 3, but the part where we live is a 4, and some 5 plants will survive here through the winter.
Depending
but
on
not
the
all,
winter too.
Right, not all of them, but we are technically zone 4.
Okay. And then as you go further down towards the equator, the numbers get bigger.
Right.
So if you look in a gardening book that you want to order your plants, it would say, this plant or seed is good for zone 6, but so you know that it will stay in that area or warmer. So it gives you variety.
Zone 4.
Yes.
Or 3 maybe.
And usually they give a little picture that will show that, so you can see what area you're in.
Marcia, can I ask, if you get a starter like I want to start some tomatoes and I want to do above ground, so you get a starter. If it says it's organic, is it really? How do you?
Yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know what to tell you on that.
Okay.
And a lot of times I like to go and ask friends to know if they have any, I've sort of grown a community of gardeners that way. But I know I'm trying to think what it is, the mowing, what the variety is.
High mowing.
Who said that?
High mowing.
Yeah, you can get them at Lake Winds and
Co-ops.
Yeah. I
Oh
know
yeah,
that
go to
those-
Lake Ones. Okay.
Yeah,
Co-ops,
they're
so
gonna be really good.
Yeah, they'll have two. Okay,
And
thank you.
they're the heirloom seeds too, and heirloom is when you're going back to the generations and generations before, so they're taking that original seed. They're gonna be more expensive, but you know that you're not
Yes.
getting any cross breed between them. So that's a good brand, and I know that I've heard about those really well. So
in Eden Gardens.
Eden Gardens, okay. See, you get some good people in mind, and you'll all start seeing
Yeah.
different things, and you base farm and stuff.
And if you take your magazine from your co-op, it lists in the back, if you read the back, it tells you a lot of CSAs that will also sell starter plants.
Oh, okay.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
So does Lake Ones, we monthly flyer, Hilda?
I've never been to Lake Winds. I do Valley Natural Foods, but I would assume Lake Winds.
And if you go talk to them, they're gonna
Look at their
give you
website.
resources.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So this is what your city garden is gonna look like by the end of this year. So I expect you all to learn a lot, and that's what it's gonna be. You're gonna have, your trees are gonna be, you know, broccoli, and then you're just gonna have these wonderful waterfalls that are just gonna appear up, and these are gonna be mushrooms, you know. I'm kidding.
Right.
You know, so you never know. But this is different, you know, just different sources of how you can make your city area into a garden. So looking here, it's just different beds, and you can put different plots, have a little trellis going up that the vines can grow up. You can make anything with anything. It's creativity, talking about that it's an art, but yet if you let it do what it needs to do, it'll just take over and it will just create itself. A little bit about the biodiversity. I don't know which towns and cities around here allow chickens to be in their backyard. I know there's some restrictions and people complain about that. Eden Prairie does not. Thank you. You asked?
Yes. Well, I just know, I know, if you actually, in Eden Prairie, there may be 4 farms left, and they can have chickens, but normal homes,
They can't have them. Okay. And I know that varies by it's a city.
you can have them in Minnetonka.
Yeah,
Okay. Minnetonka signals for.
Okay, cool. And then how well your neighbors love you, you know.
Mhm.
You know, once they're, you know, waking you up at 6 a.m.
Well, a lot of them allow chickens, but don't allow roosters.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks. It'll just help with the breeze.
No?
It's very warm.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you feel it already?
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
You're
Yeah, that
welcome.
really made a difference.
You're welcome. I didn't know if
Oops,
it's
the
just because
door's
I was
shut.
like nervous or.
No, it's real warm.
Okay. So this is the way of biodiversity. You know, you can use the droppings from the chicken as fertilizer for your garden. They're gonna bring in they're gonna eat the bugs maybe that would end up eating your plant. So there's just different ways, and you build another connection. You know, who doesn't love animals around? So different ways you can do that. You know, they're gonna feed off of one another, and they're just gonna go in sync. Just different ways of landscaping with it too. You can make your garden pretty, like I said. A lot of this is like specifically front lawn gardening. You know, so this is what people have created in their garden, into their lawn. So here, you know, they just have like a walkway through that goes out into the street. Just different types that they have. They made a little curb area. I don't know again if we can do that in Minnesota specifically, but turn that into a little garden bed. And then other people get to see it and they say like, why don't I do that? You know, I can have that fresh produce right out in my backyard and in front of my yard. It doesn't
Just have
matter.
to check with your city, that's all. It's governed by city ordinance, so just check with your city.
Okay, real farm girl. I don't know those things. I thought this one was really neat. I mean, it just looks pretty. They made it like an arch. You can put flowers in there. You can mix and mingle them together. It doesn't have to be just a vegetable garden or just a flower garden. Because vegetables are colorful. Think how pretty a ripe tomato is, or a ripe pepper is. The colors are phenomenal. Yeah, so just different varieties of what you can do. Different ways if you can't actually really, you don't have a lot of space. It's just the simplest little things that you have maybe thought of, or you didn't think that was good enough, or why can't I have the full out blown garden? But you know, just taking pots, you can do your herbs in there. You can do one tomato plant. One tomato plant can give you 20 tomatoes. Sometimes it's more than what one family can even handle. You know, so it really depends. And you don't need a lot of space for that. Just know your lighting. You want that soft light, and you can always, you know, take them in, take them out, whatever you want to do. There's really no cookie cutter approach. This is one of my favorite. I think we all have something to hang down from. So this is just taking a gutter.
Look at it, you could use lettuce, herbs.
Everything. And then the best part is the water trickles down. So you could put more of your, you know, your higher water needed plants on the top, and then your drier ones on the bottom. So there's just different ways of doing that. You don't need a lot of space. You just have to be creative with how you can make it.
There's a local woman who you can buy the kit, and it's just like a little square fork, like whatever. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's biodegradable plastic or whatever, but you just fill the thing with dirt, and you don't even have to build the wooden.
Does she make them or does she sell them at stores?
Yeah, there was I think you can buy them online too. Amazon may have them, but I can't think of the name of them. But I think she lived in Orono or or something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
That's something to share for everybody if they wanna know.
Yeah, they used to have them that place, there's a place in Excelsior, a clothing store that used to sell them. But it's, yeah, it's just this little thing and you just put the little plastic thing down full of dirt.
Easy peasy, you're all ready. This one is really neat too, because a lot of people have, fencing around their place. And it's just, again, taking a gutter or, some type of pipe that you can cut out, be creative, find a thrift store, whatever, backyard that you have in your junk pile. But again, it's just, think of all that lettuce can this be grown as you just attach it to the side of your fence. And then again, it's gonna trickle down, look, there's 3 layers here. And then even below, if you want to grow something like that. A lot of people have seen box gardens, that's becoming a bigger thing. And, it just gives availability of putting fresh soil in there too, knowing that you don't know maybe if you move somewhere, what the person has done before, you just wanna make sure you wanna start fresh with an organic produce or organic soil. But it's neat because you can also trellis up with those. So you're gonna make more in a compatible small area. You can always go all the way up to a triangle. And the trellises, I love the trellises for your beans, for your squash, for your cucumbers, for your zucchini. Sometimes they get so big when they're organic that you think they're gonna bust. But you'd rather have that than not having them at all, right? This is my favorite one. I did this one last year. So let's not look at the brand. If we can find an organic one. All you do is literally set up like, I'm trying to think of the word, what somebody would use for like painting, like a construction worker. Yes, like an easel and sawhorse. So all you do is you buy your big potting soil mix. You leave about an inch around the sides, and you just cut, and then you poke holes in the bottom so the water can drain out. But then you literally just go outside if you just have a porch and you can't put anything else on there, or you have, strict town home, association laws and so forth. You literally just go out, cut off your spinach, bring it back in to eat. Like, super simple, you're not investing a lot of time, but you can still have just your garden style if you want. If you just want to have your herbs and you don't have room. So just, everybody can be a gardener within it. It's just maybe there's different levels at the time of, the season that's going on. So there's always a way that you can incorporate something. Straw bale. So this lady talked about it before, but it's just an easy way to provide. You don't have to change your landscaping. You don't have to dig in and, like, I don't want to ruin my wonderful lawn. You can just put this straw bale. I have a book up here too.
He's from the U of M who wrote it.
Cool.
And it's really, it tells you everything, and there's no weeding. There's no weeding, and you don't even see the bale by the end of the summer, and the plants were all taller than me. I've never had tomatoes so large. They were over 6 feet tall.
Wow.
Honestly, you couldn't even see the bale. I could show you on my phone, but it's so tiny you wouldn't be able to see it.
I think, future pictures you can send to me. You can send an email.
I'll email you.
So there's always ways of doing things. So the cool thing about this is that you can start your season about 3 weeks earlier, because the heat that it produces within the bale doesn't allow the, to die out, basically.
The key is you have to condition the bale for 12 days prior to even planting anything in it. So if you wanted to start earlier, you'd have to start 12 days ahead of when you wanted to plant, because it does generate its own heat. That's exactly right.
So, this book would be really beneficial for anybody that would want to do that. I think that
Was it last year? Amazon number 1 book.
cool.
Yes.
Oh, really?
And if you
Can I
want to
send it
see him in
around?
person, he spoke at Bachman's.
Yes,
He's spoken at a lot of places, and he went to the U of M. And really, what gave him the idea is he used to garden with his grandma, and they noticed that the weeds and everything grew better in the straw bales that were laying by the barn, and so that's what got him started.
Yeah, it's really cheap. You don't need to get containers. You don't need to make trellises. You don't need
So
to
I
make
have
boxes.
a question on that though, like, what kind of straw bales are they? I
They
mean,
have to
are
be
they?
straw.
Not hay straw.
They can't be hay, they have to
No,
be straw.
but if
They
there's
can be,
straw,
they can be
the
wheat, rye, or.
that is GMO.
Then you're getting more technical.
Yeah.
It depends on the level that you want it to be. Preferably if you want to go all organic, because there are pesticides and stuff on those, and so
Right.
you're going to want to sort of keep them clean.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, because those are going to the soil and the plants will fold. What goes into the soil as it washes off, that's what the plants will feed off of. So.
On my brothers have even now, they have a kit, you can just go and buy the whole kits, you know, like smaller ones, larger ones, whatever, and then they just load it, everything in your car.
So it's almost like
Making it really,
an easy one, you know, step by step, that's really done for you. Cool. And you don't have to do any tilling either, you know, so that's the main thing, right there for you. I mean, literally, you don't really have to worry about the weeds if the weeds is something that you don't really like. You probably will grow some, but not compared to what
It
that
actually
was.
grew none,
Cool.
and I planted flowers, petunias all along the sides.
Sort
And
of.
so, yeah, on the side of the bale, and then
Oh.
I planted potatoes in the bottom, and then I had the tomatoes growing out of the top. And the cleanup in the winter is absolutely, it's easy if you have a big compost bin or someone that picks up that stuff. You just break the bale open and the potatoes are right there and they're clean. I mean,
Cool.
it's really
Cool.
nice. It's
Oh,
nice.
bale, it's still bale garden, okay.
That's neat. That's really neat. Just another easy one again is indoor gardening. You know, just start them. You can start them inside right now as seedlings because it doesn't really matter if they're going outside or not. But you know, just put them in a window, make them pretty, make your own art. You know, anything from herbs. You can even put a little trellis if you want it to on a bigger pot. But if you wanted some, you know, tomatoes to grow, if you wanted a plant, and you can do as much as you want. There's no cookie cutter approach. So anybody can gardener, even if it's inside.
And the good resource is the U of M site. It's uofm.edu, and there is a specific site that has nothing but questions for people if they're having problems, how to grow things. There's just
Cool.
tons of information.
Cool. And the Arboretum, you know, is just right out there too, right? If you want to just go ask. The library's good resources there. And let's say you really don't have enough room or space or time to actually grow a full-out garden and you want produce on a daily basis or weekly basis. The community supported agriculture, CSA, which is becoming more of a bigger thing nowadays. People are taking part in it. Basically, what it is that you have a farm that grows a bunch of produce, and you buy a share within that. So you can be every weekly that you'll receive a box of produce, and it's going to be in season. So you're going to get some things that maybe like your kids have never had before. You'll get something like okra or different types of lettuce and different types of beets. There's so many things that we just get so used to just carrots, peas, and beans. You know, so there's different ways, and it's actually really, really a good price too. So you get to, oh my gosh, guys, oh no, this is the right thing. Yeah, sorry. So you get to know your farmer too, which is really neat. You know, you can go out and see them twice a year. There's different ones depending on the farm that you can get to know them, and they get to know you. And again, you get things in season, and it's really like important to eat in season too. There's something about the nourishment that you get from that your body needs during that time as it's in season and outside. So yeah, and you can do those. There's a lot of cities have them, a lot of different things. So
Again, they're in the back of the co-op. All the co-ops and the CSAs in back, and you call and get shares.
okay, it might be. I don't know if it's late at all right now. If you can do
It's
that.
kind of late.
Okay. But otherwise, there's farmers markets. That's the next thing that you could do instead. The one thing, oh gosh, there's some really cool statistics that I found out that I thought were cool. So when you go there, you just never know, who's organic, who's not organic, if that's what you're looking for. Fresh produce is better than no produce any day, so I'd rather have people not worry about the organic part as much if they just need to get the produce in. But, a lot of times you'll see little signs like organic produce, or they don't say anything. So I tell people, talk to your farmer there. Establish this relationship to know what's happening with their food and how they're growing it. And the reason why a lot of them don't say that they're organic, because if they sell more than $5,000 a year, they have to then become certified. And it is a lot of work to go certified. Just from everything from them coming out to the farm and checking and inspecting, just to making sure that it's all up to par.
They have to keep records for 7 years.
Yeah,
Of everything that they put on their farms and grow with and everything.
So for a small family that maybe just wants to go sell at the the market once or twice a month, they're not going to do that. And if they do sell more than $5,000 and they're not technically certified, they get charged I think it's fine $10,000. So they don't even want to risk it. So just go ask. And the farmer's going to be open with you because they're really proud of what they grew. They're going to want to tell you and establish that relationship. So just be open, and asking questions is a good thing. And don't feel like you're bogging them down. So different ways that you can use your fresh produce, and I just stuck to more raw, just because right now it's the season, and you know it's getting warmer. You don't feel the need to have as many cooked foods. You know your body can adapt to the colder food. So just different salads. Like look how pretty that salad is up in the corner. I mean, there's a lot of color in that. Have fun when you eat. You know, it's not just the food that you're tasting; it's the aroma, it's the texture, it's the color. It's establishing this healthy relationship with food because we're given it for a purpose to nourish our bodies, not just to feed our minds or our bellies during the time. Different wraps. Wraps are my favorite. So taking those big collard green leaves, or I mean, you can even take Swiss chard and just make a little wrap. You don't even have to have gluten in it. You don't have to worry about anything like that. Just take your fresh vegetables, put them together, add a little taco meat, whatever you want to do. Just have fun with it. And kids love it too. It's fun. They get to be part of that. It's not just from a box. There's something more. Juicing. Juicing is, I think, one of the most beneficial ways. I know. The lady back here did a juice fast a little bit ago, so we were talking about that. So she has the whole what it does and how wonderful it is for you. Yeah. But it's just easy. You just wash your produce up. You have even a blender is a great thing. Just to whip up a smoothie, throw some greens in it with some berries. Just fun different ways to get that fresh, nutrients right in you. And the kids think it's fun too. I mean, they get to see this thing being cut up and shredded, So, and then just dips and dressings. There's different things that you can make, like a zucchini hummus instead of using chickpeas. Different fun things, and all your different types of chips can be vegetables. There's different ways that you can use the foods as it comes into the colder season too. So there's different ways of fermenting your foods, canning your foods, and freezing your foods. And we know that in Minnesota, that's something that we definitely do to sustain throughout the winter. I just love this picture. I thought it was fun. And dehydrating too. That's a really neat thing to do. You can make your own herbs for seasoning and sprinkle on your own things. Dehydrated kale chips. That's a big thing that you find in stores now. You can make them your own, and they're expensive to buy. But just put, if you wanted to make like a sweet one, take a little honey, put a little cinnamon, put them in there, and just dehydrate them. Or you can take some cumin to spice up with some olive oil. There's a lot of different things that you can do with that. And then like sun-dried tomatoes. Just slice them up, throw them in, and kids love them as snacks. Because first of all, they help to grow them, and then they get to eat them. There's just always little benefits. And then just storing your root vegetables too. If you just have a cold, not everybody has a root cellar anymore. It's not really what people do. Maybe my grandma's house does still, and that's a blessing to have. But you can just take like a box or a bag, a brown paper bag, put a little bit of sawdust on the bottom, and then put a piece of salt shaker, and then that just helps absorb and keep them cool and put them in a cold area. So like you have your furnace room or something like that, just keep them in there, and just check them to make sure that they're not rotting or anything like that. And when you do take them to actually put in the root cellar, you just want to make sure that they're dry and they're not wet either. So when you throw them in there, they're going to mold. You want to let them be outside a little bit in the sun before you do that. So basically, just looking at, we learned a lot tonight. Some that you probably already knew, some that was new, and we all shared with each other. But it's more about, to me, is spreading the seed. We talked about how Marie with just doing her straw bale gardening. Now, how many people this year are doing it for, that are in her neighborhood? It's sharing the wealth, because not only is it for our families and for ourselves, but it's for our environment. And one little thing at a time can make a big deal in the future. As we know, talk about, 1940 was the first time fertilizer was used, and that was probably small, but then over the years it grew. So can this. It can start small, and it can just spread. So just knowing that what you're doing is not only affecting you, but it's affecting other people around you, even if they don't ask. So if you turn your front lawn into a huge garden, which I hope you all do, people are going to wonder, they're going to see it, they're going to want to know more. And also just to share your produce that you get. If you can't usually eat it all, just give it away to somebody, just bless them that way and say,
And things like cabbage, you can just put them right in your flower garden. In between your flowers, and a cabbage looks gorgeous when it starts growing,
So much you can do.
And there's usually master gardeners at all the farmers markets to answer your questions.
People want to help. They want other people to do this too. So just happy gardening, everybody. It's time to start planting. It is. It's spring. It's warm out. There's a lot of excitement about it. So you guys are getting excited from this, and then you want to go and spread it not only in your garden but everybody else. So, yeah. Any questions specifically?
But do you think that we still can grow tomatoes? Because I used to do it in April, and I start with my egg cartoon and put some soil in there and let it grow until I can transplant it. And April was really cold, and I didn't see the way it grow.
When you buy your tomato seeds, look how long the germination, the bearing to fruit, is it 60 days or 90 days? And you'll want to buy the one that only takes 60 days. Or if you go buy a plant that's already started, you have plenty of time still planting it. Because really, you shouldn't plant till after Mother's Day in Minnesota. Honestly.
You never know.
I think the last frost day that they recommend at the U of M is the 10th or 12th of May, and you're not supposed to really plant tender plants till after that period of time.
Oh, okay.
Pansies aren't tender, that's why you see them everywhere, because they can tolerate the cold, but tomatoes and things like that, they recommend not till after the 10th or 12th.
So it really depends on the season. You never know what you're gonna get. It's a warm season right away, or not
This
to chance
certainly
it.
isn't.
But it's not too late to plant tomatoes,
Oh,
and you
that's
can buy starter plants, and then
Starter plants.
you'll be way ahead of the schedule then.
Okay, thank
So
you.
yeah, depending when you want them in the season, because they can, the frost can change too. You never know when that's gonna hit. So you can have an early frost, even though you start it indoor in the beginning, and you just never know. So Minnesota's just chancy, but so just do it. I mean, what are you gonna lose if you don't try? And
Yeah.
you're still gonna have fun seeing it grow.
Oh, absolutely. And when I got the tomatoes already grown, I grow too many tomatoes. I just put it in a bucket, in the ice cream bucket, empty ice cream bucket for the winter, and I put it in the freezer, and then I took little by little when I got the good tomatoes. That's the way I did it.
It's so exciting to have that. Where's your book?
Oh, somebody just went out
Is
the
it
back door.
Oh, I was like, what? I think it's right back there. It's just
Oh,
there.
sorry.
Any other questions? It's a little bit after, and I want to let you guys get going because everybody has a life and has family, wants to be outside. It's nice out.
So do you have one go-to book for beginning organic or?
I'm gonna let.
I don't.
You don't have one.
Last year was the first time I actually tried being organic, and the hardest thing for me was finding fertilizers. And it's blood meal and bone meal that you can use, and then, I don't know what that was called today that lady sold us. She said it was organic. Urea. And she said that was 42% nitrogen. So you need to be careful how much of that you use, because if you use too much nitrogen, you'll have lots of big, tall plants, but very few fruits. So you need to balance your, if I was you, I would just go on Google and say basic organic gardening.
the square foot gardening, I'm
Yeah.
assuming that's organic.
No, not all of it. You wouldn't have to do it organic. That just means you're not using chemicals to grow your food.
Yeah, right, but I'm just wondering if he's picked up.
Yeah.
There was an organic.
Yeah, I think it was. Okay, the square foot book.
Yeah.
I don't know how far you live from the Arboretum, but I could spend hours there talking to people.
Yeah.
They're so knowledgeable, and they're gonna have books and books that are gonna be bashed on, years and years, that are gonna be basically like more organic books. So just, it's almost finding your own. I don't have a book per se, because I sort of grew up doing it,
Right.
so I don't have that.
And they do have a huge library.
You can spend hours in there.
And the U online.
The U has so much online, and it's all free, ladies. It's all free from the U. And you have the best professors in the world giving that, so.
It's true. Minnesota really blessed with that. Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And I
So I just want to let you guys know that if you want to learn more, maybe not specifically with gardening, but I do nutritional work
right
here.
next to long ones like this with the posts going up and the board like
that
this.
way.
A board.
But we're
Did you
offering
look
a
at the book?
$29 time to come in and just have a consult. It's an hour-long
I'll show
consult.
you.
We can sit down and maybe find out what goals would be, what you want to do, if it's family, you, just making a lifestyle change that way. So that's a special for tonight. And also, my next seminar is, this is June 10th. I feel like it's April. I said June, or May on there. the season's gone so fast. From 5:30 to 6:30, the next seminar is gonna be on, are you smarter than an 8-year-old? So we're gonna look at, take a look at grandma's remedies. Things that used to be done that
coming
are
back
just
in.
as efficient than other things. So that's supposed to be June 10th.
Okay.
So pardon me on that one. But, yeah, so that's it. So if you have any questions, there's a sign-up sheet if you would like to come on in. If not, you know, if you have any questions, there's my card out there, or here's the number, and just feel free. So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.